In the 1990s, the United States had houses so haunted they were condemned, padlocked, and sometimes erased from public records. What happened inside was never meant to be known. But tonight, we open the door. These weren't just spooky old houses, they became paranormal black sites, where investigations went so wrong the official response was, "Nobody goes in, ever again." These are documented cases where the living world cut its losses and boarded up the windows for good. Tonight, we're dusting off the case files on these forbidden properties to ask, what could be so terrifying that the only solution is to pretend the house doesn't exist? Let's find out, but from a safe distance. Our first stop is Vicksburg, Mississippi, at the infamous McRaven House, Mississippi's most haunted house. In the 90s, McRaven's reputation became a hazard. The house is a patchwork of eras, which in ghost logic is like a spectral timeshare. Spirits from different centuries all under one roof. The main entity is Mary Elizabeth Howard, who died in childbirth in 1836. But Mary Elizabeth isn't a passive ghost, she's an active force. In the 90s, staff and investigators reported objects thrown, doors slamming, and the feeling of being watched by something that wanted you gone. A team of paranormal investigators spent the night, expecting the usual bumps in the night. Instead, their equipment failed, batteries drained, and audio captured blood-curdling screams. Worse, several were shoved, scratched, and one was pushed downstairs. The team fled before dawn, vowing never to return. After that, stories piled up. Tour guides quit, visitors left mid-tour, and the owners struggled to keep staff or insurance. The house was often closed to the public with vague reasons like restorations, but locals whispered it was just too dangerous. Tours became tightly controlled, certain rooms were off-limits, and overnight stays were banned. The city treated McRaven like a sleeping bear, best not to poke it. The narrative shifted from "come see our haunted house" to "this place is a genuine hazard." Even today the most active sections are usually inaccessible. The message: look, but don't touch. And don't annoy Mary Elizabeth. The 90s marked when McRaven crossed from intriguing to threatening. The investigators became part of the story, a warning of what happens when you push a powerful entity too far. McRaven became a house that fought back, using its ghosts to enforce its own boundaries. The ban wasn't just to protect people from the ghosts, it felt like the ghosts were protecting the house from people, and they were willing to get physical to make their point. So, McRaven stands as our first example of a place too haunted for its own good. It's a landmark too famous to demolish but too dangerous to fully open. Sometimes the scariest thing is a door that stays locked for a reason, and at McRaven, that reason is still waiting inside. Next we travel to rural Hinsdale, New York, to the infamous Hinsdale House, a place of demonic infestation and a failed exorcism. The story began in the 70s with the Dandy family, who endured chanting from the woods, faces in windows, and a sense of deep wrongness. A priest, Father Alphonsus, was called to perform an exorcism. Instead of cleansing the house, it made things worse. The entity grew violent. The family fled, and the house sat abandoned, a local legend. By the 90s, the legend had only grown. Paranormal thrill seekers who entered reported overwhelming dread, nausea, and growling voices. Some trespassers were found miles away, panicked, with no memory of how they got there. The property was posted and patrolled. The town wanted nothing to do with it. The haunting wasn't just a ghost story, it was believed to be inhuman. The failed exorcism put a supernatural "do not disturb" sign on the door. The church washed its hands of the property, no second attempts. The house changed hands on paper, but no one lived there or tried to fix it. Investigators found their equipment destroyed, not just malfunctioning. People felt a force actively trying to harm them. The ban was both legal and psychic, no trespassing, and no help coming. Even seasoned ghost hunters warned, whatever's in there might follow you home. The Hinsdale House sat silent and rotting, its reputation growing darker. It's a testament that some spiritual battles can't be won. The failed exorcism wasn't just a footnote, it was a permanent stain, a warning that some doors, once opened, can never be closed. The house remains a chilling reminder, not all hauntings want resolution, some just want to fight. The 90s made Hinsdale a no-go zone, both by law and by legend. It's a place where even the church surrendered. And that's a ban you don't break. The Hinsdale House is a warning. Some places are off-limits for a reason, and sometimes the scariest thing is what you can't see, but can still feel. The house waits, its darkness undisturbed, and that's exactly how it should stay. Our next case is the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas, a place where a ghost girl story masked something far more sinister. In the early 90s, Tony and Deborah Pickman moved in and quickly experienced odd activity, flickering lights, moving toys, and a presence in the nursery. The ghost was said to be Sally, a little girl who died from a botched surgery. At first it seemed harmless until the attacks began. Tony became the target, deep scratches appeared on his body, fires started, and objects flew across rooms. The playful ghost persona faded, replaced by something violent and calculating. Paranormal investigators suspected demonic mimicry, a non-human entity using the image of a child to gain trust. The violence escalated, scratches in patterns of 3 oppressive feelings, and a heavy presence in the basement and nursery. The Pickmans fled, and their story became famous on TV. The Sally House became a magnet for ghost hunters, but most left shaken or injured. The entity targeted men, just as it had Tony, and seemed to enjoy psychological torment, mimicking voices, creating terrifying apparitions, and lashing out physically. The house was often vacant, as no family could endure it for long. Psychics warned that entering risked spiritual attachment. You might take a piece of the darkness home. The city of Atchison embraced the haunted reputation, but the house itself was locked and shunned. The Sally House is a lesson in paranormal misdirection. You can't always trust what a ghost claims to be. The ban wasn't just about physical safety, it was about spiritual safety. Something in that little Kansas home was a skilled liar and a violent tormentor. The 90s made the Sally House a place you didn't just avoid, you feared. It's a perfect trap. Sympathy lures you in, but the true nature is far more dangerous. The house remains a warning. Not all hauntings are what they seem, and some doors should never be opened. The Sally House is still waiting for its next visitor. But it's better left alone in the dark. Sometimes the scariest ghosts are the ones that pretend to be innocent, and sometimes the mask never comes off, until it's too late. The Sally House is a story best left unfinished, and that's exactly how it wants it. Our final stop is the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri, a house soaked in tragedy. The Lemp family built a brewing empire, but their legacy is one of suicide and sorrow. 4 family members took their own lives, 3 inside the mansion. After the last Lemp death, the mansion became a boarding house, then a restaurant and inn. In the 90s, the owners leaned into the haunted reputation, offering ghost tours and overnight stays. But the activity intensified. Guests and staff saw apparitions, doors locked on their own, and a dark presence was felt, especially in Charles Lemp's room. People reported sudden, overwhelming depression, waking up screaming, or feeling suffocated by a suicidal urge that wasn't their own. The attic, where William Jr.'s son Zeke was hidden, became a hot spot. Guests heard a child crying and felt a small, sad presence. The hauntings became too real for business staff quit, guests fled, and overnight stays were quietly discontinued. The line between a haunted inn and a place of genuine psychological danger was crossed. The owners couldn't guarantee safety. How do you ask a ghost to sign a waiver? The Lemp Mansion became a place you could visit, but not stay. The ban was a business decision born from a paranormal reality. The sorrow was too authentic, too invasive. Today, overnight stays have returned in limited ways, but the 90s proved the mansion's power. It's a house that doesn't just contain ghosts, it contains infectious grief. The Lemp Mansion is a reminder that some histories are too heavy to sleep with. The family's tragedy isn't just a story, it's an active force the house makes you feel. Some places are haunted by more than spirits. They're haunted by sorrow itself. The Lemp Mansion is a warning. Some curses can't be slept off, and some doors, once closed, should stay that way. The mansion stands as a monument to grief that never left. And for some, it never will. The Lemp Mansion is a place where the past is never really gone, and the sorrow is always waiting. We've walked the haunted halls of McRaven, faced Hinsdale's failed exorcism, uncovered the Sally House's deception, and felt the Lemp Mansion's sorrow. 4 houses, 4 bans. But why do they remain forbidden? Legally, it's about liability. You can't run a property that actively harms people, living or dead. When investigators are assaulted or guests are overwhelmed by despair, you've crossed from eerie to endangerment. The 90s brought paranormal fame, more visitors and more incidents, forcing owners and officials to step in. The bans were a reaction to danger that couldn't be managed, but there's a deeper reason. What if the barriers aren't just about lawsuits, but about containing something we don't understand? These entities aren't passive. They're active, intelligent, and sometimes malevolent. The church retreated from Hinsdale. Psychics warned people away from the Sally House. These are warnings from people who believe the threat is real and not bound by physical laws. Are the bans to protect us, or to keep something inside? The consistency is telling. Sally House still targets men, Lemp Mansion's sorrow lingers, McRaven's hostility endures. These forces haven't moved on, they're waiting. The bans might be an unspoken truce, we leave them alone, they stay put. Some locations have cautiously reopened, but the stigma remains, they're landmarks defined by danger, places that fought back. Not every mystery is meant to be solved, and not every door is meant to be opened. The true warning is in the stories of those who were scratched, terrified, and broken. Some places are not meant for the living. The bans are a recognition of our limits, and maybe the bans aren't working. Because what can hold back something that isn't physical? The houses may be locked, but the stories and the entities might just be waiting for someone new to turn the key. The 90s may be gone, but for the entities in these forbidden homes, it was just another decade. These houses stand as grim monuments to places better left alone. The bans are a thin veil between our world and something ancient, hostile, and territorial. When a house gets a reputation for danger, sometimes it's best to believe it. What other horrors are waiting behind sealed doors, contained for now but never truly gone? Let us know in the comments. This is Silent Screams, where the dead are never silent.